Okay, good morning, everybody. Wow, what a morning, at least for quite a few of us, and some traveled from out of town. So welcome everyone on behalf of the local Active and Safe Routes to School partnership. I am Emily Van Kesteren. I'm a public health nurse at the Middlesex London Health Unit and one of the co-chairs of Active and Safe Routes to School, along with Kelly, if she's come back in or not. There she is, making an entrance. So in the Eventbrite registration, you will have seen a YouTube video. The purpose for that was to anyone who doesn't know much about our partnership, to kind of catch you up to speed on some of the work we've been doing, because today we are starting from about a year ago, updating you on what we've been doing since then. But these next few slides will just give a little bit more sense for anyone who is newer. So our partnership, here are some of the representatives on it. It is tri-county, so Elgin, Oxford, Middlesex, London, and St. Thomas. And the purpose of our partnership is to work together for the improvement of children's health, safety, and environment through comprehensive health promotion strategies such as engagement, education, research and policy development, or advocacy. Why we do it? Everyone around the table comes for a reason that their organization or them personally. The ones we look at most of the time are the benefits to health, both mental and physical health. Benefits to the environment, air quality. Having more students walk to school and less people driving, it's better for traffic and safety around schools. Students who walk to school have a greater sense of community and also arrive at school more alert and ready to learn. So those are just some of the reasons of why we come around together to care about this topic. Our flagship program, how we do a lot of what we do is through school travel planning. So what it is, and it's on the back side of your rack card for a little more detail if you want it. It encourages active school travel by developing an action plan to build upon strengths and work to remove concerns around schools. So I'm sure a lot of you here today, if you've had any involvement in school travel planning, you've seen that put into action, collecting a baseline data to find out what are the barriers and how to improve them. So right now, before we get into some of the other guest speakers, just wanted to highlight some of the work that we've been doing since our last knowledge exchange last year. So as exciting as the terms of reference in your package, I'm going to start with the most exciting first, sarcasm intended. Part of what we did this past year was the development of a logic model for the partnership, and we did this to really align all of the committee's work, all of our objectives and things like that, which we were then able to put into the terms of reference to have a consistent vision and objectives. And then we created a work plan, which in the past, there was a really great one developed back in 2013. And when we started accomplishing most of the things on there, it became confusing. So we've updated that this year. It's now very clear, project-oriented, and excited about that. Also, it allowed us to develop a tracking document. So we've actually never kept track of all the work the committee's been doing over the years, except for in just kind of different ways. So Pam from Elgin-St. Thomas and Kelly from Oxford and I have been working on this tracking document. So hopefully we can start seeing what we accomplish year after year in one place. And lastly, we had two great literature reviews done for the partnership this year. One was done by a fourth-year nursing student with Kelly in Oxford on the benefits of active school travel. So we've gotten so used to talking about what the benefits are that when we're asked for references, we're like, well, it's just obvious, isn't it? So we now have a great Excel spreadsheet of all the references for that. So if anyone ever needs that, just be in touch. We can provide you with it. And Adrian from Western did a literature review on STP methodology, which he'll speak to in a little bit. Some of the new partnerships, so what makes us who we are our partnerships. So a few just worth highlighting that connections, new or enhanced partnerships over the last year. The City of London's neighborhood walking audit, so we started realizing we were doing very similar things. So we've opened up that line of communication to try and reduce duplicating and work together when a community and a school are both interested in making safety improvements. The CAA Safety Patrol Program, and I saw one of our partners here today, We've been in communication a lot more with them, which some of our school travel planning schools are now working with CAA and police and trying to get either the bus or foot patrol program up and going. So we're really excited about that. The Southwestern Ontario Student Transportation Services, which I believe we have some representatives from today. And we've been identifying several ways to work together over the last several months. And so that's a very exciting new direction for us. And London District Catholic School Board, they have a specialist high skills major program in the secondary schools. And we've just this semester, we're trying for the first time working with a parent and a couple students on their ICE project. So I think, and I apologize if I'm wrong, Innovation, Creativity, and Entrepreneurship. ICE, thanks Erin. And so we gave them a problem statement from our partnership, and over the semester they're working on coming up with creative problem-solving ideas that we should hear about in May or June. For those who are interested just in kind of where are we at with school travel plans, because I do get this question a lot. To date, we've had 32 schools in our Tri-County area involved in school travel planning, 9 of which were from the original pilot with Green Communities Canada. 14 since 2013, when we revised our local process, have gone through the full evaluation process. 13 are currently active, and we do have several more planning to get started in spring and fall. And if you are ever interested in knowing what schools have been involved, I try to keep it up to date, but on our website, the link is up there. You can also go from school travel plans to participating schools to find that out. Some STP resources that have been developed this year. One is a terms of reference. Again, I'm sorry. We actually heard from some of the schools in the evaluation that STP school committees were lacking some direction on roles and responsibilities and things like that. So we adapted this terms of reference from Green Communities Canada, and it is now posted in Word, so you can adapt it for your own school, but it is now located on our website under the manual, under helpful documents. And Catherine, one of our members from the HEAL Lab, is currently working on a video that will be able to encourage more survey participation as they visit classroom to classroom and in newsletters to parents and things like that. So stay tuned for that in the near future. Some additional resources we created this year. We partnered with the London-Middlesex Road Safety Committee to develop 2 new Tony the Streetwise Cat Lego stop motion videos, which we were trying to get playing on the laptop back there, and I don't think it's working yet. Hopefully at break we will. With those videos, one of the nurses at MLHU created that awesome display back there. There's going to be a large social media campaign this spring, and London Police are also doing an enforcement blitz. So it's going to be an exciting time to really raise awareness around pedestrian crossovers in school zones. All the resources as well can be found on our website. More resources. Sabrina spearheaded at one of our schools a wayfinding sign project. We're currently just revising some of our processes and things like that and looking at expanding that to more school travel planning schools. We have had the 11 safety tips on our website translated now into Arabic, Spanish, and French. So any schools, we really kind of pushed that out, especially at the beginning of the school year, now accessible in more languages. And one of a really exciting project we did this year was the mapping curriculum, which I'm not going to get into because Erin's going to present on that in a couple of minutes. The STP evaluation, also not going to go into this because that's what Adrian's presentation is on, but it's certainly a highlight from this year, working on that, some focus groups and interviews. And then one of the other things that we've developed with a working group over the last year are these STP reports. There's a lot of complexities with showing before and after STP data to schools. So we came up with what we hope will work for schools to see some of those baseline and follow-up statistics. And we have some copies on the back table. So if you are interested in seeing what those look like, schools now, after going through follow-up data collection, will be receiving one of those. Some events and presentations over the last year. We did partner with the HEAL Lab in co-hosting a day at their Children's Health and Environment Workshop and Symposium last June. So we had a day where half of it was completely dedicated to active school travel, and that was a great event. Tara and I attended the CAA Safe School Zone Safety Workshop back in October to present on some of the work of our partnership. And then later that month, the ACT Sustainable Transportation Summit. So these are opportunities where we now have enough data and we're having success stories that we're able to now be sharing with other groups and other communities, which is really exciting. Some of our advocacy work, Tara's going to speak more to this. It kind of came up because of her school sidewalks and the need for them. So Active and Safe Routes, we did develop a position statement. And if you have a school that is wanting sidewalks, at this point in time, contact me. We'll get you that position statement because we don't have a spot on our website for it yet. But, and then just more recently, the Ministry of Education's consultation, a new vision for student transportation. We did submit comments to that as well. So whenever we do these advocacy pieces, we're including literature and evidence, as well as our own local data from STP schools. A funding update, it's been a very exciting year when it comes to funding. The HEAL Lab at Western, who does a lot of our data collection and things like that, received a grant from the Ministry of Environment on Partners in Climate Change, and that's to help support the ongoing STP evaluation, promotion of a connection between active school travel and climate change, and to support staff at HEAL Lab to continue supporting our partnership. And then more recently, we applied to the Ontario Active School Travel Fund, and we'll hopefully hear this month how that goes. But what we've applied for is a staff person at Student Transportation Services, some financial support for the CAN Bike program that we partner with at schools, and to expand the wayfinding project that I showed you there, and also fund some bike racks at some of our schools. As for what is coming up, I won't be here, but what a lot of you are going to be working on over the next year. One of the things is a campaign to highlight the link between active school travel and climate change, which if you are interested in that, Andrew, if you could wave your hand there in the middle, he's going to be spearheading that working group over the summer, so that hopefully it can align with iWalk month in October this year. We have an equity and program sustainability working group that's going to be working over several months or longer, looking at ways to really improve our resources, our processes. Are there new resources we can create to increase the capacity for schools to take on STP themselves? The sustainability piece will look at how to keep school travel planning active beyond follow-up data collection. And if you are interested in this one, Pam is spearheading that, so Pam is in the back. And lastly, the evaluation and sustainability working group. So this one's looking at how can we tie in what we've learned through evaluation, and how can we keep STP more sustainable on a grand scale, so reducing our human and financial resource needs to run the program. And Andrew, again, is going to be your contact person on that one. And a lot of the time, those two groups are going to come together when looking at improvements for surveys, the STP manual, and things like that. So if those are projects you'd like to have a say in, certainly be in touch with either of them. And lastly, some role changes, just so everyone is in the know. Adrian is pursuing his PhD after he finishes up the evaluation, and he's been an awesome member of the committee for the last couple of years, but we will wish him luck. And Catherine Wilson has returned to the HEAL Lab and is going to be the contact. So if you have a school interested in starting one, that is who you'll be contacting. And for co-chairs, with myself going off shortly, it's whoever will be in my place will be a co-chair of Active and Safe Routes. But Kelly, who has been co-chair for over, I think, 2 years now, will also be going off in September. And so Andrew Clark from the HEAL Lab is going to be our new co-chair for a 2-year term, which, thank you so much, Andrew. And with that, I would now like to invite up Erin Much from the Thames Valley District School Board, and we're going to do a quick mic change here.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about a student engagement project that we were doing. And so my name is Erin Much. I'm the Environmental Education Learning Coordinator for Thames Valley District School Board. And this was a project that we met as a pretty large group last summer, including some city staff and Jake Skinner, our trustee. But then we got into a smaller group over the winter, and I worked with an instructional coach. And so they work with a team of elementary schools. So each coach would have maybe 5 schools that they're responsible for, and they help teachers in terms of professional learning. And then we had one of my colleagues, a learning technology coordinator from the board office, who helped with the tech pieces. And then Emily and Kelly. So the 4 of us came together to help plan this, and then we piloted it first at John Wise Public School in St. Thomas with a teacher named Kelly Campbell. So these photos are from Kelly's class. And so our idea was that we wanted to be able to have a map that families could use to highlight some of the opportunities and like the great things that would help them be walking to their school, as well as some distances. So to be able to measure, this is a 5-minute walk, and so here are the routes that are 5 minutes from your school, and here are the routes that are 10 minutes. And so we wanted to be able to have this resource to share with families. And so then what was really important to me was that we were using our students as contributors to this project. So they are the ones who are going to use the map with their families and can influence that change at home. And so if they are engaged in the process of creating the map, they're far more likely to then be considering that as an option. And so this is kind of our philosophy of our great kids and what they're able to do. And so the process was we all came together in one day. It was like a kind of a blitz. So Emily and Kelly got to see some curriculum design, and we wanted to be able to have this as a resource that can be shared with any teacher who's interested in doing this with their class, so that their students can create this map for their school as well, so that it's something that can be easily shared, and that we can do that through the board for teachers, and instructional coaches could be working with their teachers as well. And so these are the curricular links we found we designed it for grade 5 to start. A teacher could easily take this and see their curriculum links otherwise, but we found links for science, social science, the healthy active living, so that's phys ed, you would know it as, their language and media literacy. And so this was easy to find these connections and be able to help a teacher then hit a lot of curriculum connections with a really engaging project for their students. And so we also, what's kind of new and important in the Ministry of Ed and in the board is these global competencies. So we're hoping to instill these skills in our students. And so each lesson and each activity that we had designed, we highlighted, well, this is a really great communication project, and this is a really great critical thinking activity where the students are really looking and using a tool to consider where there are aspects of that are safe on their route to school and which parts they may want to be considering more carefully. So we highlighted the global competencies through the lessons that teachers can use, and so we have this as a resource that we can share. And so it started with a bit of a provocation in the classroom, talking to the students about active travel. It could be, depending on your neighborhood, a local story or just even one image as a provocation. And then the students went out with the teacher and the instructional coach. They used City of London's walking audit checklist that Allison helped us kind of put together. We modified another version, and they had clipboards and printed maps, and they recorded things on the printed map and recorded anecdotal comments. And then as well as like signage and behavior of how the street or sidewalk was being used in terms of traffic and pedestrians. And then they did a big link to math in terms of walking for measurement and counting their steps with pedometers and calculating how far that was and how long it took, and doing a lot of conversions between meters and kilometers. So for grade 5, this is a really great way to make their math come alive. So that was, this was all before we were still getting to the map. And then they created in Google My Maps an electronic map with, we created as a group our list of what icons we wanted them to use, so that between schools it would all be, it would be seamless. And so if John Wise creates their map and then Forest Park creates one, that they look the same. in terms of the icons, and that those can become, if students are changing schools, that they would be familiar with what the icons mean. So this is actually an interactive map. You can zoom in on it. I don't think it's linked through here because I don't have a mouse, so I can't pull it up, but I can share it maybe through Twitter, a link to it, and then everyone could click on it themselves. But so students can add photos to this, so they can click on, say, that red icon. It says, this is a 10-minute walk from school. And then they can, so any of those red icons are a 10-minute walk, and then the blue ones are a 5-minute walk. And then you can click on the traffic light, and they could add a photo of what that traffic light looks like, or what the pedestrian crossover looks like, or what the bike rack looks like. So those are all things the students can add, and this can be updated next year. They could use the same map and add to it, or students could be adding to it throughout the school year. And so, this I noticed on the print aside, I was like, I had created it in Google Slides and shared, and then quickly downloaded it as a PowerPoint. So that's why there's it didn't modify perfectly. But this map then is modifiable in the future. It's shareable, and so it can be modified and shared rather than a paper map that's printed, and then if we want to modify it, we have to print it again and try to share it again, and it could end up at the bottom of a backpack is what we were thinking. So this way it could be shared on the school website, and it can be, as it's updated, the link stays the same. So as students are adding to it, it's an opportunity that's a living document. And then it's also collaboratively constructed by the actual users of the map, which was, we think, a pretty neat facet of this opportunity, rather than having some experts create a map and hand it out. So the users are actually the creators. And then our next steps would be sharing the map through social media, so through the school social media account or school newsletters. So it's a link. And then we presented this in a more teacher classroom user way. So this, I'm trying to talk about process more, but Sarah presented it at our STEAM conference for teachers, so they could see how they could use it in their classroom, and she showed more of the curriculum connections and more of the teaching opportunities related to it. So it's been shared with a number of teachers already, and we can share much further. And then another next step would be having those grade 5s take maybe the grade 1s out and showing them the walk and pointing out different aspects of the different routes to school, and then showing them the map that they could then show their parents at home. It's also an opportunity to incorporate their daily physical activity, which is part of the everyday, every teacher's day of learning is to incorporate daily physical activity for their students. And then another next step is that next year that same teacher could be updating it with their grade 5s next year, or the grade 5s could be updating it while they're in grade 6. So there's multiple opportunities for keeping it live. And then we can have other people incorporate it as well. So parents could be adding to it as well. So that's our resource that we've created. And then if you have any questions, so that's my email and Twitter. So I'll try to make a copy of the map that is view only, so that everyone who sees it can't edit it, and then tweet that out so that people can look at it and zoom in and check it out. So that's something we could do in other schools as a great learning opportunity for students. There you go, thank you.
All right, thank you, Emily. So everybody, my name is Adrian Buttazzoni. I'm a second-year master's student at the Human Environments Analysis Laboratory up at Western, and I'll be speaking to you about the ongoing evaluation of the ELMO ASRTS program here in London. So just a quick outline for what I'll be going through here. We're going to start off, I'm going to just give you an update on what all the acronyms I'll be using throughout the program are, just so no one's confused. Then I'll get into the systematic review that Emily brought up earlier, and then I'll be jumping into the qualitative analysis of the committees, how they function, and I'll be jumping into some preliminary analysis that we have quantitatively regarding students' participation in the program, as well as the perceived barriers of AST in the area. And then after that, I'll just give a quick overview of what this all means and what some takeaways are from the findings. So some acronyms you'll be seeing today. Hopefully everybody knows ASRTS by now. Active and Safe Routes to School. AST, Active School Travel. So this is in reference to biking to school, walking to school, scootering to school. ELMO, just in case anybody doesn't know, for anybody out of town, Elgin-St, Thomas, London-Middlesex, Oxford. Physical activity is PA, STP is school travel planner, school travel planning, and then finally the 5 E's, as you'll see up on the wall. So hopefully I don't have to explain what those all are, but these are just the initiatives run through the program here in STP. So just a quick overview of the systematic review that we have published, myself along with Emily, a postdoc at our lab at Western, as well as my supervisor, we were looking at after-school travel interventions conducted in North America, and we want to document everything from the conception of the interventions through to the final reported outcomes. So we found a whole lot of things, but what's important for this presentation is that not a lot of the interventions that have been studied so far report much in the way of the committees or the coalitions or the partnerships which are supporting the after-school travel interventions. So that leads to the qualitative evaluation that we've run over the past year and a half now. This is kind of staticky, sorry about that. So what we did to try to study these committees is we wanted to look at the functionality of the committees, what resources, their structure, as well as the perceived sustainability and the perceived efficacy from those helping to implement the program and run the program at the school level. So to do this, we talked to 18 public health nurses, or we conducted 18 interviews, with 12 different public health nurses. We ran a couple focus groups with 5 schools participating in that. We had good diversity across public health nurses, teachers, principals. Is it this? Okay. I'm just going to stand over here now. So we had good diversity among our participant group. So just before I get into the discussion, just so 2 quick points. There's going to be a lot of overlap between the discussion and findings. That's just the nature of qualitative data. And the second point is I'm not going to have time to go through all of these individual points and give an explanation of what they all mean. So if anybody has any questions afterwards, I'd be more than happy to talk about that. So in terms of what's working in the program, well, the bottom-up approach that we use has been widely reported as something that's very key in terms of making the program effective. So what this means is that the program is adaptable to each school's specific concerns and needs and resources. It's not a matter of having the program come in and the school has to fit the program. It's using the program to the school's structure. The collaborative approach, more than anything probably, was actually the most widely reported successful feature of this. Bring in expertise from all over, whether it's community reps, it's the parents, it's teachers, it's having a community partner, being able to bring in this expertise and draw from it in order to make an action plan that works, critical. And among these, most important were the city and town reps, because they were able to take the concerns of the school and bring them to the decision-making process. So issue-specific or ad hoc subcommittees, this was really important in terms of the efficiency of the group. It's not important for everybody to be at every meeting. So having issue-specific meetings where only 3 or 4 of the entire group are there, it's just a great way to maximize time, save people, and not overburden people with too much information or too many tasks. Generation of AST champions, obviously really important for making sure that it stays on the school agenda. It's a priority for the school. And then the proper application of the 5 E's. So as you see up here, we have education, encouragement, and enforcement. And all these initiatives, for the most part, seem to be properly implemented and well supported. However, there was a little bit of controversy over engineering, specifically that engineering was seen as kind of a blanket cover to any AST issue when it actually really wasn't in the best interest of that committee or that group to implement, say for example, a speed bump on a certain street or making a school zone speed zone. So a little bit of controversy there, but something I'd love to talk more about, but I don't have time. In terms of the areas to improve, and I have a couple of notes here because the committee has begun to address these. The capacity demands in the facilitator role. The facilitators are critical in this process. However, they are incredibly burdened with having to organize things, generate resources, keep people up to date on what's going on. So to address this, the Equity and Sustainability Working Group that Emily mentioned earlier, which is being run by Pam. Pam's here at the back, so if you're interested in knowing more about that, Pam is here. They're working to streamline the process and develop resources such as a facilitator guide to help ease the burdens on these facilitators. A second area for improvement was clearly defined roles and expectations. We heard a lot of times that there were individuals within the committees who weren't sure of what they were expected to contribute, how they were expected to contribute, what role they actually were filling on the STP committees. So to address this, the ASRTS steering committee here has begun to develop the committee terms of reference, which I believe Emily brought up earlier. They're developing the helpful documents, which can be found online in the online STP manual. Parental education, ongoing battle for everybody. When to engage parents, what strategies are best to engage parents. That was an issue at pretty much every school. Missing potential committee members. So collaboration was great, however, there are still some members that are missing that need to be recruited in the future. Of note, school board trustees, school board facility reps, local residents, and that leads to the final point, student involvement. While there was some reported success with having students involved, for the most part, student involvement is still very limited. There's limited opportunities for students to participate, give their opinions on matters, and be a part of the committee. So what's working overall? Well, active school environments. What this means is having a school that is motivated, enthusiastic, has the resources to create a viable committee, wants to be involved, and takes initiative in terms of supporting the STP program at their school. Having these features is critical in order to maximize the reach of the group, the effectiveness of the STP committee, whereas we had instances of passive school environments, the exact opposite. Schools that were more inclined to sit back and let the public health nurse run the program. They didn't take initiative to plan out STP committee meetings. So trying to avoid those passive school environments, as we term them, is very important in terms of trying to create a sustainable program. And that leads to the next point of creating or conducting a thorough implementation of the school planning program viability at a school. If you walk into a passive school environment before you set it up, you're already working from behind. Building opportunities for the STP committee members themselves, so for the parent reps, the teachers, to actually go out and be engaged in the process and learn about AST as an issue, were also incredibly important in terms of building that buy-in, building that engagement. The walkabout specifically was seen as the best opportunity to do this. This is when parents can go out and see the kids walking between parked cars, see kids walking and biking, or see kids, biking with no helmets on, or the dangerous areas with patches of ice in the winter. So this really brings to life the various issues that kids face on their daily commute. In terms of the areas to improve, there are still some issues with what do we do if there's turnover? What happens if a public health nurse leaves or a principal leaves during the course of the program? There's really no resources, there's no guide, there's no help for what to do in this instance. And building a pro-AST culture. AST is a long-term issue. It takes more than 2 years to address this and see significant changes that are sustained. Understanding this is something that all committees will need to continue to push their school communities, because it is still something that people want to see instant results. They want to see an instant fix, a quick fix in 2 years, and that's just likely not going to happen. So I'm just going to skip this slide because it's pretty redundant to what I just spoke about, and I submitted these slides to Emily last week before realizing that. So moving to our quantitative evaluation, what we want to do here was examine the changes in children's participation in AST, as well as the parental and the child's perceptions of barriers to active school travel. So to do this, we wanted to look at pre-intervention and post-intervention beyond or through the 2-year period of the program at the various schools. So we had great sample sizes for this, over 1,000 for each group, parents and children at both baseline and follow-up. And so we've just begun to conduct preliminary analysis as of last week. Hopefully there's no statisticians in here who will grill me on our techniques, but we have run some programs in SPSS to get a sense of what we're seeing from the survey data that we've collected. So our preliminary analysis shows us that there have been significant reported changes among the barriers that people are reporting to AST, both children and parents. So for example, safety as a barrier to AST has gone down significantly for both groups. However, when it comes to AST participation, we're seeing a bit more of a split here. The children are reporting significant changes while the parents are not. What this means, we're not entirely sure, but it is good to see that perceptions are changing and perhaps participation rates are going up as well. It is worth noting though, because we have 2 cross-sectional groups here, we have different children and parents at baseline and follow-up, the actual effects of these results are relatively weak, but we are seeing significant changes. So what does this all mean? Well, for the committees themselves, the school environment, the school context is critical. Walking into a passive environment versus an active environment can determine a lot with regard to the sustainability and the effectiveness of the group. Opportunities to build engagement and buy-in and to educate the various committee members is critical. The collaborative approach has been widely reported as being successful. However, there are still some missing committee members who will need to be recruited in the future It's always great to get diversity of opinion. It's only better when you can get the school board reps, the local residents, and children involved as well. And then, again, it's just reinforcing that active school travel is a long-term issue. People need to understand this, school communities need to understand this, principals need to understand this. You can't implement this program in 2 years and expect to see earth-shattering results. So knowing this going into the program, as well as continuing to promote this message throughout the course of the school travel plan, is very important. As for the intervention itself, we are seeing improvements with regard to barriers. However, the actual participation rates is a bit more blurry at this point, but we are seeing encouraging signs. So thank you for your attention, and I think we're skipping questions, so I just want to acknowledge all of our partners involved. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk about our success in Oxford in the setup phase. So first of all, I just wanted to move my slides forward. No. We'll get there. It's only so many buttons. There we are. Okay. So first of all, I just wanted to introduce Central Public School and give you a bit of just stats on the school. So it was built in 1880. It's a core school in downtown Woodstock. So it's a densely populated area of our city with lots of businesses, and there's a high school right across the road. So there's limited parking in that area, which is, we share parking lots, and there's not even enough parking at the school for all the teachers that are at the school, so they rent a parking lot from the city. There's 254 students that attend Central, and there are 4 buses dropping off 80 students, and of the 144 kids that are eligible to take the bus, only 55% basically ride the bus that could. So did I say that? I said the opposite. So of the 144 that are eligible to take the bus, only 80 of those students take the bus. So only 55% are taking the bus that are eligible. Anyway, not enough kids are taking the bus at this school, I will tell you. So many families attending Central are the working poor, so it's a low SES school. A lot of the families are from subsidized housing that are close by as well. Just to give you a feel for what the school population is like. Also, the school capacity is 400, so the school will be growing over the next few years. So building the STP committee in the setup phase, we had our local police officer promoted to the school. I thought that was, she had a relationship with the principal already, and she kind of has clout when talking to the principal about the safety concerns and the travel issues with the kids. So she was the best person to create buy-in at the school. And so she did that, and myself and the school nurse went in and we got them to sign the oh my goodness gracious, to sign the consent to be in the research and move forward with the program. So I presented to the STP program at Parent Council, and we got 4 or 5 parents interested and signed up on the committee, and a teacher joined the committee as well that evening. Also re-recruited the trustee and our city engineer, and they're both here today. And they're just very important partners to keep involved in these. And then, so considering the school demographics and the low SES and kind of high need, they didn't really have the capacity to take on this additional program. So, so we have STS, our new partner at the ASRTS table, and Maureen offered to involve herself in the central committee. And so she also offered Brandon from STS to stay on at our local committee. And it's proven to be a good resource partner. So, I mean, we're kind of thinking outside of the box, and that was our beginning golden nugget as far as recruiting people that are the traditional recruits. As far as Adrian's presentation about missing community partners, pardon me, this is an example of the qualitative data that you did and using it to improve our programs. And so STS, for an example, has helped us both with the traffic counts and with the walkabout, and they're very heavily involved now. And then with this slide, as far as it helps speak to this point again by recruiting key community stakeholders. Please hold. Okay, that was, sorry, I forgot I put that stuff in. Okay, so we thought we'd inform and invite our key stakeholders in that, like I said, it was in the downtown core, it's very jam-packed. So we wanted to inform and invite them to join in the Central's STP Committee. And so we drafted a letter and we offered full participation in the committee and also becoming a resource member and not being fully there all the time. And we hand-delivered those letters, school nurse and myself, and to the United Way, the church, the local high school across the road, the downtown BIA. So it being in the downtown BIA, I thought that was a really important partner to have on board. And 4 out of the 5 members did join our STP committee, which was amazing. And the critical success factor in that recruitment strategy was the personal touch of walking into their organizations and talking about the program and getting their buy-in. And we found that a lot of their same issues were the same issues that the school was having. So we had tons of benefits of involving the community stakeholders. United Way helped us at traffic counts. There was the walkabout, the library, the school principal, the downtown BIA involved themselves. And they're all staying on as active members through the action planning phase. And we just met yesterday, and it's going to be a great group. And I involved the mayor at the walkabout, which was really great with our media coverage that we got, which is the final slide, which is, so we did do a media pitch, and it was effective to get us 2 radio interviews a week apart through Heart FM, and that's our most popular radio station in Woodstock. We got an article on their website and an article front page of the Sentinel Review, and also an article on their website. So it was a success so far, and there's so much more exciting work that we have yet to do. So that is all I have to say.
Welcome everyone. So my name is Tara McDaniel and I am a public health nurse from the Middlesex London Health Unit, and I am going to tell you about the success that I had at one of my elementary schools, Riverside Public School, here in London, and just tell you a little bit about the success in particular with delivering our action plan. So this is a picture of the front of Riverside, and Riverside is a school that holds about 450 students. And it is located in the west side of London, certainly an older community. So when this community was built, it did not provide any of the streets with sidewalks at all. So they were very interested in the school travel plan. About, I would say, most of the school, the children potentially can walk to school. There's about only 26 of the 450 students that are required to ride on the bus. So we've heard a little bit about the importance of collecting data. So certainly with that data, that provides us the information to know what we need to do within the school. So this was an interesting slide that the HEAL Lab did for us. So this basically tells us about the concerns raised by parents in the area. So specifically, if you look at all the red dots, those are specific concerns raised by parents, and just on the concerns of no sidewalks. So this was a huge issue with the parents. So certainly they don't feel that there's sidewalks enough in the area, so therefore they're not allowing the children to walk to school because they don't feel it's safe. So this became sort of the beginning of our action plan. This was a priority, and this is where the passion was. So this is where we started. So what we found out when we collected all our data and we had our walkabout, the very first meeting that we had, so the sidewalks was the issue. And luckily, we did have the experts in the room with us to let us know about this wonderful program in the City of London, and it's called the Warranted Sidewalk Program. And what that is it's looking at neighborhoods within London and looking at installing sidewalks that are needed, throughout the next couple of years. So certainly the expert from the City of London, the senior transportation technologist, he informed us that already the City of London had planned to install sidewalks in the area at Riverside. However, what he also informed us that there was a number of people opposed to this. So surprisingly, there were a lot of residents in this area that did not want to see the sidewalks. So this really alerted us. We knew this was our opportunity and we needed to make an impact. So luckily we had wonderful representation at the committee, and they were willing to move forward and take some action. So one of the decisions was to certainly use social media. So there was already a Facebook, Oak Ridge Facebook community already established. So the parents decided that they would use that as their way to reach the people in the community and really encourage sending letters to the ward councillor, expressing, how they are in favor of having these sidewalks installed as planned. Also, an advocacy role we took was to write letters to the ward councillor. So we had letters written from the principal, from parents, from the school trustees, as well as a letter from the Active and Safe Route to School Partnership, and that did include the actual the sidewalk position statement that Emily spoke about earlier. Also, we had a wonderful parent who was willing to have a petition signed. So he went door to door on the streets. He explained, the situation. He had parents signing this petition. He also walked the roads to school every day, engaged in conversations, and had people sign it as well. So this all went to the ward councillor. So certainly we didn't make the ward councillor's day that week. So he was in a position where there were so many people opposing the sidewalks, and then there were so many people in favor of the sidewalks. So because he was in that difficult situation, what he decided to do was to give us a delegation status at the upcoming Civic Works meeting. So what that meant was that we were invited to attend this meeting, and we both had the opportunity, both sides, to present our position, so our argument. And then it would be the councillors that would make a vote, and then those recommendations would go forward to City Councillor with the final decision. So with this opportunity, certainly we really had to make that impact. So what was decided was that we would include students' voice. So too often we are, advocating, but we're not including the students in this process. So because they're the ones walking the streets, it's the behavior they're doing, we really felt that their voice was important. So again, because of all the different people involved, a fantastic principal who was on board and passionate about this, he decided to help us with this, and he recruited a group of children from grade 3-4 class. And because already in the curriculum they were talking about persuasive arguments, what they did is they actually created a video, and within that video was their argument why they feel they want sidewalks and why they should have sidewalks and why it would be safer for them to walk to school. So the meeting came about, we attended the meeting, and the opposing side presented their part. Riverside presented theirs, they showed the video. Emily Van Kesteren was there, and she answered to some of the questions that the councillor had for the Active and Safe Route to School Partnership and the STP program. And in the end, the majority did vote to go ahead with the installation of sidewalks. So I'll just quickly show you a before and after. So you can see on my left of the screen, certainly difference in sidewalks. I mean, you know, certainly beautifies the area, certainly clear paths for the children to follow, so certainly safer. This was another one. This was probably the most concerning street, and the reason why is right at the top there you can see there's a really sharp turn there where cars would drive around that corner quite fast. So it certainly separates the children from the main roadway. They're making it a lot safer. So, and again, just to really reiterate what Adrian said, the collaboration is the biggest thing with STP. That's what I found as a public health nurse. I can certainly facilitate a school to have an STP, but if the partner's not there around the table, then the success is not going to happen. So we had so many players. We had the City of London, we had the school boards, we had passionate parents, and you know, principal that was willing to work with us and get the students. So I certainly feel that the collaboration is such a big part of why we met the success we did. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Verde, and I work at Elgin-St. Thomas Public Health. And I'm here to talk to you about sustainability and a little bit about the evaluation process, which is always ongoing for us at McGregor. So I just wanted to talk about in the beginning, where's the clicker? In the beginning, just like Adrian was saying, it was a very active school to begin with. So they were already doing iWalk days. They already had a walking school bus. They had a very engaged teacher who took the lead on these. They were aware of the concerns for the safety issues in and around the school. They had a very engaged, capable, and strong parent and teacher that were already coming together and meeting. And then the relationship with the school public health nurse was already established. I've been there for 7 years now. So these sorts of things were already in place before we started talking about active and safers to school. And I want to share with you one little story of the culture of the school. So there was this, they'd already been doing iWalk days long before I came on the scene, and this little boy came onto the schoolyard the very first day I was there. I had my sign up, my active safe routes to sign, and they were going to sign them. I had my pencils to give out, and he was the first little guy with this little backpack that was about the size of him, running on like it was Christmas morning to get this pencil. And in that moment I was like, oh my gosh, like this is part of their culture. He's expecting this. He knows this is going to happen year after year. And that has continued like the 3 years and has just gotten better. So it was a pleasure to work with them right from the beginning. So we worked with the 5 E's. I've just kind of broken them down this way since they've been introduced, but this is what we were doing all along right from the beginning. So under education, we continue to help educate the students and the parents. They do CAA road safety, taught to all the grade 1 and 2 students. We send out newsletters or little bookmarks with information that we want them to know if there's been any changes or anything like that in and around the school. Jaywalking has been a problem, so we've used that as an opportunity to send out maybe a little more strongly worded, jaywalking isn't safe messaging. And currently we're going to be developing a flyer to the parents to let them know everything that's been done, or just like a one pager to let them know everything. We find that's really important to continuing to engage and encourage. This fits on under more. Encouragement, we had giveaways. We always have giveaways at the park and walk a block and iWalk days. We include the parents in the iWalk days. Again, newsletters congratulating parents, no matter how small or big the changes. So if we've seen that we've asked them for a change, like not parking somewhere or this or that, we'll send out a little great for you. Like we've noticed there's been a change. It's for 2 things: to encourage the change to continue to happen for people who maybe haven't done that change, but also to give people a pat on the back. Change isn't always easy when you're asking people to do these sorts of things. And other ideas that we're kind of now continuing to do is announcements, like video announcements and things like that, and getting the students involved. So engineering, I'm going to speak to that to the next slide. There's been lots of changes. And enforcement, I would say this is where the school struggles the most, and I find this interesting. This could be a whole nother, is the enforcement. I don't find that this community in particular is very receptive to any sort of enforcement. So we've had a police officer out there saying, hey, can you walk down to where the crosswalk is for the safety of the children? And then there's, you know, a verbal moment between the parent and the police officer. It's just amazing, right? So there's this uncomfortableness for the school and for the police to actually say, this isn't safe, which when I went to school when I was little, if you jaywalked, you got called into the office the next day by the principal to talk about it. So I just find it amazing. So they've been unable to stop people from using the gate in the parking lot. They were using that as a drop and go, coming in the parking lot, stopping, the kids go into the gate, and this was causing safety concerns. They weren't able to get people to stop doing that by asking, so they blocked that gate. So they do go ahead and enforce things when they have to, I guess. And the evaluation phase, so that's with Western and Heel, is the formal evaluation, but we continue to evaluate every kind of change we make or every promotion we do. Was it effective? More just on an informal basis. And they're very aware that fixing one problem can cause another one. So we've made a lot of structural changes, but we realize by doing that, we have to be aware, have we created any other problems? So that's, I don't know if you can see this very well, but all these yellow highlights are the things that have been changed. Oh, I'm not gonna be able to go up there, am I? So, okay, I'm just gonna, so we've put no parking zones in where visibility was low. We've worked with the town to be able to make all of these changes. We've got a very close relationship with the roads manager, and he's been able to work with Thames Valley District School Board's facilities manager. And we have it's kind of like not a C-shaped, but it just comes off the road, and it's enough for, I think, 8 cars to come in and drop off. And I know the engineering changes are controversial, but there was a need for us to get those cars off the road. We have 4 schools and a high school all on that stretch of road. So there was just a need, that's a major road going through there, to be able to get those cars off the road was important. You can talk to me about the other structural changes. I'm getting a 1 minute, so. But we changed quite a bit just to increase the safety. We're gonna be doing traffic counts to be able to see just on our own, is the change, we can already see that it's better, but the school's interested in doing just some informal traffic counts to see how many students are being dropped off there in the morning and the flow of traffic. So I think that speaks to the passion that the school has around active and safe routes to school. So our partnerships were, Town of Elmer was really big for all the structural changes. The local police service, they would come and sit on our committee, and they could speak to what we could do, what we couldn't do. The mayor even was there showing support. Parents, definitely huge, strong parents. And public health, so I was asking, so what does public health bring to the table from their perspective? And they really feel like the research and reports that we're able to bring when it's needed, that we're a liaison between the community and the stakeholders, that we increase the awareness of what's happening, and it brings structure to the process. So I was kind of asking them, could you do this without public health, right? Like, that is the sustainability piece of it, is what can you do, or what do you think you can continue to do without public health involvement? They didn't feel comfortable around that. They just feel like it brings a formality to the process, and that we have an education base that they don't have, nor the time to be able to bring it all together. They said even just you coordinating the meetings, right, is huge. So the strengths, they continue to have a strong parent group, a supportive principal, teacher who's passionate about physical activity, support from public health, and they're always thinking ahead. So there's currently going to be construction going to be happening that's going to actually make their street, that South Street, a major artery for, it's going to close down the main road in Elmer, and all traffic's going to be redirected. So that's a parent on the committee calling me up, sending me the picture, sending me the notice saying, hey, look, this is coming, like, what can we do about it? So that's coming from them, and that's that active piece. Each person brings something different to the group. I think that's another huge strength of the sustainability of that. So you have somebody who's physically really interested in the physical aspect of it. You have someone who's interested in the safety aspect of it. And then you have someone who's like, oh, let's include the kids, right? Like it's a little bit of everything helps us to be successful. So the next steps are we're considering the neighboring school to implement active and safe routes to school. They have already, but it didn't really take off. So we're going to be looking at that again because we have one key parent who's moving on to that school. So maybe that's what needs to happen, right? Like maybe as a team, we're just going to be exploring that. The walking school bus continues to grow. It's more formalized. There's training that's given to the people that are involved. They have consents that need to be signed, little clipboards and vests, and that's the support from the principal to really make it more formalized. For the parents to say, oh, okay, well, if they've got their ducks in a row, here's a consent sign that needs to be formed. Here's a little vest that they're wearing, right? It helps parents to say, yeah, let's do that. Park and walk a block. That's something that they've done for the last couple of years, and we're continuing to get that to grow. So if you live too far away, but maybe you could just park and walk a block. So every little bit helps. We usually promote those on the iWalk days. And then safety, the construction, which I mentioned, and then communication with the community, which is always ongoing. I'm just trying to think if I wanted to say anything. I think that was it. That's our winter walk day, where we handed out hot chocolate, and I cannot tell you, that is the best part of my job. I can't believe I get paid to do that. Hand out hot chocolate. Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much to all of our speakers today. Hopefully, no matter